We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
You had yourself a stellar weekend, and you have a story for the group here.
It's not really a story. It's more of an anecdote. I was going to the FC Cincinnati game, which is right down the road. We're right next to it here down in
It's a fantastic stadium.
TQL Stadium here.
They did some work.
Is gorgeous, gorgeous stadium. In my opinion, the best stadium in the Cincinnati area right now. I would hope so. It's the newest one, but it is very nice, even for a soccer stadium. Not a big soccer fan, but I'm walking to the game with my brother, and someone shouts to me, "Hey, PFF." And me, in my idiotic
what did you say?
Response was, "Yeah, PFF Mike," is what I said back to him. And I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck did I just do?
What happened after that?
I just walked away. I just kept going.
That's a brutal
It was
scene.
like in kind of like a crowd, and they're like, "Hey, PFF," and I'm like, why was that my response?
Yikes.
So that was kind of the tone of the weekend.
It's a tough start to the pod. It's honestly a low.
I know, right? And I played in a golf tournament. I did not play well this weekend. So it was fun, but those were some L's that I took, more than a few.
Seth Galino was in town for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And he stayed with me in my studio apartment on a recently purchased, while he was here, air mattress.
Mm-hmm.
And on his first night, got tanked on a Wednesday. Took a Lime back for the first time he's ever ridden the Lime, one of those little scooter things.
Mm-hmm.
And he's driving back, and I'm in front of him, and he freaking takes a monster spill, hurts his elbow and his knee, like limps into the house. It was a good time though. Seth really took Cincinnati on head on, and it was fun hanging out with him though. PFF_Seth on Twitter, but it was cool to have him in town. He was honestly hanging out with Chris Collinsworth a ton, working with him, because they're going to be working together on a lot of the Sunday Night Football stuff this year, which is awesome to see. It sucks that he's out there in Montreal. To start, before we get into the Bruce Feldman freaks list, because we're super stoked on that, C.J. Henderson, Jaguars first round pick from 2020, former Florida corner, guy that we've had on this podcast, quietly spoken dude, apparently not in favor of the Jaguars coaching staff. They went out and got, Shaquille Griffin. They've added some other pieces there as well. I think PFF reporter Doug Kyde, new reporter here, had some inside info he tweeted out recently. Let me look at it. He said, new Jag staff isn't high on cornerback C.J. Henderson. Explains why they signed Shaquille Griffin, re-signed Sidney Jones, Trey Herndon drafted Tyson Campbell early in the second round. I'm interested to see, one, what the hell happened? Why isn't Urban Meyer a big fan of C.J. Henderson? Two, what do you think his trade value is? Is it a 2022 second? I think Brad Spielberger of PFF said maybe a 2022 second and a 2023 fourth. That's where my head is, at least. It's definitely not a first-round pick after 1 year and kind of an underwhelming rookie campaign. Where's your head at with C.J. Henderson?
Yeah, so, he started off hot. He had that big game week one where the pick, 3 pass breakups. Obviously that was the high for him that season. Got then hurt down the stretch, didn't play the last, I believe, like 6-7 games of the year. So it was as encouraging as maybe any rookie corners, though, was. Nah, that's not saying a lot, considering the rookie cornerback class really took some L's in year one. But the fact that he actually came out and had some high-end games where not a lot of guys did, there's reason to be excited for him going into year two, but what was it? Or Meyer's press conference kept saying personal reasons or whatever for C.J. Henderson and the possible trade talks. That's trading a top 10 pick, though, after one season. And one encouraging season is not a good start, I'll say, for this staff and where they're headed here. Now, it could be all on C.J. Henderson's part and none of the staff, but I'm just saying in terms of you want that guy to be a cornerstone of your defense. And right now, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
Who's a team that you like to trade for him? I think people have floated around the Cardinals. I also think the Saints need to get a lot cheaper at corner.
You're going to float the Cardinals for every cornerback.
Well, every man corner. C.J. Henderson. It's C.J. Henderson.
I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah,
they don't have corners. I think, though,
they also play a ton of man coverage.
The Saints are the intriguing one because they are always looking They're always looking to make plays, always looking to add some talent through every single avenue possible, and to any detriment of their cap whatsoever, they'll be willing to do so. So that'd be the intriguing team to me that I think would be willing to move, make a big move.
Didn't allow 100 yards in any game. His worst game, 99 yards allowed against Houston in week 9, obviously before getting hurt towards the back end of the season. Like you said, week 1, 83.5 coverage grade, had that interception and 3 passes defense. But since then, or after that, did not have a ton of success in Jacksonville. But still, no rookie cornerback had success last year. If anyone's pinning this on C.J. Henderson not playing well, I think that's just false. Like there's not a single cornerback that after last season, and maybe outside of Jeff Gladney, that's not a funny thing, but outside of Jeff Gladney, I do think that there's not a single cornerback that you're walking away from like, hey, from a performance standpoint, we need to move on, especially with the investment, a top 10 investment with the athletic ability and the tools that C.J. Henderson has. I do think this is personal reasons. I do think, Doug Kite is right that the staff either doesn't like Henderson or the Henderson doesn't like the staff. It's definitely something on that realm.
Yeah, this is not, again, it's more like the Isaiah Wilson situation, if anything, where this isn't performance. If anything, it's behind the scenes, what's going on there that is dictating a type of move like this. It's not because C.J. Henderson doesn't fit into their scheme or something like that.
That's what makes it so difficult too, to kind of determine his trade value. Like from a talent perspective, he's still, a first round caliber player, but off the field, you don't really know which side of the coin is really, or which side of the two parties is having the biggest disagreement there. All right, let's get into Bruce Feldman's freak list. Number 1, surprising, honestly, no one. I was not shocked in the slightest that Evan Neal, the Alabama offensive tackle, PFF 6th ranked player in the 2022 NFL draft, is the number 1 overall player on the Bruce Feldman's freaks list. He is a monster, 6'7", 350 pounds, and his jumping numbers, like he consistently hits 48 inches in the box jump. He also had that split box jump that made waves on social media. He is an explosive dude with, I think, 22% body fat, like, which is an absurd number for an offensive lineman at 6'7", 350. He is rare in every sense of the word. This is another one of those guys where like the size, the athleticism, the explosiveness, there's just too much good here to fail. Even Nick Saban spoke to him and said that he is absolutely different as a person, as a like human being, but also a hard worker and all those things. I think Neal is, shopping up to be probably a top 5, top 10 pick lock.
I wouldn't say lock at this point because I do think it could be a good offensive tackle class, but he is, if you watched him on tape, I don't think this is surprising. Like 360 pounds to move the way he does, there's something freaky there. Now it's not like he's not Lane Johnson out there. He's not going to test. He's not going to be a 4'8" guy. He's not going to have a 40-inch vertical. But you have to sort of, with all of these things, you got to adjust for how big these dudes are. And that's kind of 1, 2, and 3 on this list. Their numbers have been put up before, but their numbers at the size that these guys are is what makes it so rare. So for him to be 360 with, like I said, his athletic ability is silly. He had the 6th most big-time blocks in the country last year as a sophomore, true sophomore. And we talk all the time about how much development and physical development matters along the offensive line. When you see a guy who is an above-average player as a freshman or sophomore along the offensive line, that's rare. That doesn't happen a lot in college football because you're going up against, it's such a physically demanding position. You're going up against guys who are 2 or 3 years of physical development at those ages, from ages 18 to 21, 22, matters a ton. So when you see a guy doing it the way Evan Neal does, I wouldn't call him necessarily top 5, top 10 lock, but first round lock, we can put that stamp on him right now.
First round lock for being one of the most rare human beings on the planet, or rarest human beings on the planet. Next on the list, I was kind of surprised by this one. I didn't know Aiden Hutchinson was this kind of guy. He has some really, really impressive 3-cone numbers this past year. Before we do that, though, I saw this number too for Evan Neal. Benches 475, squatted 650, and at 350 pounds hit 18.5 miles per hour on the GPS. That is some impressive stuff. But for Aiden Hutchinson, they're already making comparisons to Kwity Paye. It's not Kwity Paye's 6'3", 3-cone, but still 6'5", 3-cone according to Bruce Feldman's freaks list here. 4'6", 40, 407 shuttle, 36-inch vertical. These are some crazy, crazy numbers for a guy, again, his size, who is 265 pounds. That is absurd. Those are numbers that corners and running backs want to hit in those kind of short shuttle and 3-cone numbers. That is, again, another guy that is coming out of Michigan with special athleticism.
Yeah, and I think maybe you just don't realize because you're lining up him next to Kwity Paye and you're like, oh shit, like he's a step slower than Kwity Paye. And he is, but I don't think that's anything to bad an eye. Equity pay was number 1 this list last year. So I do think Aiden Hutchinson, to some of those, I'll believe it when I see it. 6.54 3-cone is, again, we'll believe it when we see it. Even the 4.64, like you see him out in space, I'm not sure I necessarily believe that. To me, I would have guessed more like a high 4.7s guy, but he is a physically imposing dude. And at 6'6", 265, he is that versatile 3-4 defensive end sort of body type that, honestly, the guy he reminds me of the most, and it was a guy who was a freaky athlete coming out of the combine in his own right, is Justin Smith, the former 49ers defensive end, former Bengals great. He was top 5 pick of the Cincinnati Bengals back in 2001. That's who it reminds me of watching his tape, where it's like, it's that all-around versatile, like he can win in a lot of different ways. I think he's still sort of developing, though, outside of the power move. Like he just needs to, he has the ability to beat guys with quicks, but he keeps going back to the physicality. I think the next step for him to get his draft stock into, so he's 29th on the PFF draft board right now, to get it into that top 10 to 15 range is get some more of those quick wins on his tape in the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, like you said, 6'6", 265 this past year, an 82.5 PFF grade on 149 defensive snaps. And the year before, I mean, we were talking about him as a potential 2021 NFL draft pick. In 2019, he had an 82.9 PFF grade, 83.6 run defense grade on over 740 defensive snaps. He's been a PFF guy for a while. Definitely going to be a guy with our Michigan ties. Shout out David Zofaro. Going to have to get on the podcast. We've had Chase Winovich and others always on the pod. That's going to be an interesting one. I'm excited for Aiden Hutchinson. Number 3, your guy. Notre Dame's Kyle Hamilton, the safety. He's the 4th overall player on PFF's draft board and the 3rd overall player on Bruce Feldman's freaks list. This is another guy with some really, really wild numbers. 21 miles per hour on the GPS, 41.7 vertical, 10.8 broad at 6'4", 220. That's 6'4", 220. And we talked a little bit when we did a couple of episodes ago, talked a lot about the safety class. And like, when you got a guy who's 6'4", 220 and can have the range that Hamilton does with the 21 miles per hour, this explosiveness in the broad and vertical, that is a difference-making safety in the NFL. That is a safety we haven't seen enter the draft in quite some time.
Yeah, I think I've kept saying he's Isaiah Simmons, but at safety still. Like you keeping him at safety because of that 21 miles per hour, because of that range, because of that explosiveness. He's not out of place when you put him as a single high guy, as a quarter safety. He can do all of those things. So like I said, 41-inch vertical and 10.8 broad, that's been done before. It hasn't been done a lot at 6'4", 220. It just hasn't, and especially at the safety position. It's been done when you're 6'4", 220 at wide receiver, maybe. That's like those are Julio Jones-esque numbers, testing-wise and size-wise, just on the defensive side of the ball.
I also think that I'm excited to see, because he's only true junior, right? I mean, he is what he did this past year. Every time we turn on the Notre Dame games, which he did a lot last year. I mean, he's consistently making splash play after splash play as a true sophomore. I mean, this past year, he's 78.4 PFF coverage grade, 6 passes defense and a pick. And then as a true freshman at Notre Dame, 89.4 PFF coverage grade, 4 picks and 5 passes defense. This is the guy to look for. I know I'm a big fan of Brandon Joseph as well. There's a handful of other defensive backs, Battle, Elam, McDuffie, who's also on this Feldman's list. Derek Stingley will bring up. Like, this is a really, really good defensive backfield that I am honestly stoked for this upcoming year. All right, moving down the list here. Here we go. Number 4 on our list, but number 7 on the Feldman's list is Purdue's George Karlaftis. More than a lunch pail guy. More than a lunch pail guy with these numbers here. The 36th ranked player on PFF's draft board, Purdue edge, George Karlaftis, shows up at 7 on the Bruce Feldman freaks list.
Well, I think we always knew he's more than a lunch pail guy because the strength numbers here that he put up, 505-pound front squat, power cleans 380, are not surprising because as a freshman, he was one of the strongest defensive linemen in the country. Like, and that doesn't happen as an 18-year-old by accident. You can't just hustle your way to overpowering dudes in college football. He had something different physically to him. Now, had COVID last year, got hurt, did not see a leap in his development. So I think you're going to see almost 2 years of development from him this year. And my favorite part of this write-up here, and like I said, go check out this full article, read all these write-ups that Bruce Feldman does because they're fantastic every single year. It's something that we'll be referencing from now until we get actual numbers on these guys at the combine, at their pro days. But he went from 25% body fat when he's come to campus to 15%. Stayed at 272 pounds though. His weight has not fluctuated, but he has dropped 10 percentage points in terms of his body fat. Completely remade his body. And they say the hardest working guy, they have to shut him down from training. And just what he does from a diet and exercise perspective is insane. And he's one of the guys I'm looking forward to seeing the most this year, because like I said, I think you're almost going to see 2 years of development from him, because last year was such a wash.
This should go without saying, in the fact that we have this podcast episode. We're also going to bring Bruce Feldman on to the show here pretty soon. But go get an Athletic subscription. I mean, the Athletic does really good work. So does Bruce Feldman. Look at some of these anecdotes here. He played on the U16 Greek national water polo team at 13 years old. 2-time Indiana State champ in shot put, and started for 3 seasons on the high school basketball team. This is as part of his preparation. He spends an hour a day doing hand-to-hand combat and MMA drills, an hour on rehab and mobility exercises, and a third hour watching film. This guy's a monster. This guy's an absolute monster. Stuff that you can only get from Bruce Feldman, who's actually connected with it everywhere. And Karlaftis too has the production, and he had it since he was a true freshman. Yep. Obviously, this past year wasn't able to see a ton of him due to COVID and the injuries and all that stuff. But still, now coming back this year, he's got to be that name to watch at Purdue when you're turning the football, when you're turning those games on. All right, number 9 on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list. Number 2 on PFF's draft board, LSU cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. Another very not surprising situation here. He ran a 4.3 flat, has dropped 10 pounds, is focused on getting leaner there at LSU, wants to play both sides of the ball. The fact that Derek Stingley is putting in this kind of work, a guy that is already projected as a top 5 player, number 1 cornerback in the draft, again, speaks to just the type of prospect we're talking about. Yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing here. We know he's freak, but the fact that he is now committed to getting freakier when he could have rested on his laurels, quite frankly. Everyone was pumping him up, gassing this dude up since his true freshman year, calling him the next big thing, saying if he would have come out that year in the draft, he would have been the first corner drafted. He could have come back and said, oh, yeah, I'm going to be the first corner drafted no matter what I do. Well, he's putting in the work necessary to keep getting better. And like I said, thinks he's going to beat that 4.3 40 and 42-inch vertical at the combine. That would be a sight to behold. That's why the comp was in the draft guy, like I said, Champ Bailey, because that's the kind of athlete Champ Bailey was just 4.28, 44-inch vert, insane numbers. I think Stingley could be in that realm.
That Champ Bailey comp, I think other draft analysts are going to jump in on that, but you got to plant your flag there. That's you.
Yeah.
Champ Bailey's good.
That's a high bar, obviously Hall of Famer, but
I think we've talked about player comps before.
But so this is also a Hall of Fame type of prospect. He's going to go as high as any corner's gone in recent memory. So
as high as Okudah?
Yeah.
All right.
I'd bet.
Last one here in the top 10 of Bruce Feldman's Freaks list, and then we'll jump a little bit further. But Iowa center Tyler Linderbaum, your guy, smaller size guy that's added weight and added a ton, just been continually to improve from a skill set standpoint. Talking to Tristan Wirfs about just how much this guy has improved is obviously super special. But we always knew he was that super explosive guy. He had Pro Football Focus, graded as nation's top center this past year and pass blocker in the Big Ten. 6'3", 290 pounds, 155, 10-yard split. He is as explosive as it gets for the center position.
Yeah, and the number I love here, 4.22 short shuttle. One offensive lineman has posted a number faster than that. Care to guess who that is at the combine?
Lane Johnson?
Nope. It's a center. It'd be a nice career for Linderbaum to live up to.
I don't know.
Jason Kelce.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
UC great. So that's some company there for Linderbaum in terms of just how agile this dude is at the center position.
All right, before we jump to the next ones here, gonna have to tell you guys this. Western and Southern, a proud sponsor of the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast. And these uncertain times, life is full of questions, like when should I start thinking about life insurance? But however difficult these questions may be, Western and Southern can help you answer them. Backed by over 130 years of experience, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind. Western Southern Financial Group, life insurance, retirement, and investments. Number 20 on the Freaks list. Can we pause? He's not in PFF's top 100. He might not even be, a top draft prospect for us. But did you read some of these numbers for Master Teague, the Ohio State running back? He's number 19 on this list. 5'11", 225. Broad jumps 11 feet, 40-inch vert, and a 4.3 540. If those called the biggest height, weight, speed freak on the Ohio State.
Yeah.
If he's putting those kind of, I don't see that on tape. I haven't seen that on tape.
He reminds me of a lot. Nile Davis.
Oh, wow.
Former Arkansas running back.
Yeah.
Who went like 4.34. He was like 6 foot, like 225, went 4.34, I think like 40 plus inch vertical. but just could not do anything
Side to
outside of
side.
a straight line.
Yeah.
Could not make a guy miss to save his life.
Because you haven't seen that side to side from Master Teague, but in a straight line,
Yeah.
he's a monster. That is a unit. But number 20, the guy who is in PFF's top 50, and someone we've already spoken a lot about, is the Cincinnati edge defender Myjai Sanders. Talk about another guy really explosive in a straight line. 6'5", 260 pounds, ran a 4.56 40 this offseason, 4.10 shuttle, broad jump 10.2, vertical of 35 inches. That is what you're looking for along the edge. You want two. Here's the number that you need to bring up again, or I need to bring up again. 6'5", 260. But he's got length for days. This is not a big brute. This is a lengthy guy who has it all. It's split out.
Something I don't.
It's split. It's like it's proportioned well. He's well proportioned.
He's a well proportioned 260.
Yeah, 6'5", 260.
He's the ideal body. He's got that ideal edge body type that's tall, lean, and with the length to, play and have that advantage, that sort of boxer's advantage that we talk about, the reach that can help you make and win first contact battle regularly, and to be that explosive in that. But I think the only thing is 84.3 overall grade. It was the 11th highest graded group of 5 edge defender last year. Just to really get on board with it, you got to see dominant. Like, to really get on board with those, those are top 10 sort of physical tools. He can be a top 10 pick. To be that coming out of UC, though, you better dominate the competition in front of you. You better go to Notre Dame this year and go to town in that game and be an unblockable sort of player. If you're just kind of a guy at that level of competition, then that's why he's 32nd on the PFF draft board, because we just haven't seen him take over to that degree.
Moving forward here, did you see this Southern Illinois guard? I know he's not, but I'm reading some of these numbers, man. 6'2", 327. Squats 800 and benches 500. These are monsters. You have monsters from around the country here. But we're going to go to Christian Harris, Alabama linebacker, number 27 on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, a top 30 player, 30th overall on PFF's draft board. You're looking at some of these numbers here. 6'2", 232, power cleans 405, super explosive guy. This is another one of those Alabama linebackers that has those tools that people are going to flock to.
This one's no surprise. And the power clean's the one that you love to see on the defensive side of the ball. That is a guy who will power clean is basically how hard can you from a standstill shock an offensive lineman, stick a running back in the hole. That's what power cleaning, the movement that's where it translates to on a football field. It is explosiveness, pure explosiveness. So this is no surprise with Christian Harris. Like, he crushes running backs in pass pro, just with a head of steam downhill. He erupts through offensive linemen. So I'm a big fan of his game. Need to see a few more plays in coverage, not get lost as much, but the 3-down athleticism, it's there. That is no question with him.
They also rushed him a ton this past year. 116 pass rushing snaps, 31 total pressures, and a 76.3 pass rushing grade, along with 1 pick and 4 PBUs in pass defense. Number 30 on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, Liberty quarterback Malik Willis, the 16th overall player on PFF's draft board. Another one of those names where it's like no surprise. Malik Willis is going to be on here. I was expecting a faster 40 though. 4.5 40, 38.5-inch vertical. I was thinking 4.4s for this guy.
He's 230 pounds. So those are 4'5", 38.5 inches at 230 pounds. That's like, those are better numbers than Joe Mixon. He's Joe Mixon size with better athleticism numbers at the quarterback position. That's kind of insane. And now we like him a lot as a passer, but this has to be utilized when he gets to the NFL.
That's a running back frame.
Those are elite running back numbers. That's not just good running back numbers for a guy that size. Those are exceptional numbers if and when he does actually put those up. This dude is going to be, like I said, in that tier 1. He's going to be in that high-end tier at the quarterback position once he gets to the NFL of runners. That completely alters how you have to game plan against. So that's why he's 16th on the PFF draft board, despite very pedestrian by college football standards passing numbers last year.
A lot of people I've seen on the timeline making comparisons to Kyler Murray. Are they absurd for that?
Yeah, because Kyler Murray, I'm not sure he really breaks tackles. He just avoids them. When he's going to actually take a real hit, he's sliding. He's going down.
Yeah.
He's not really
baseball.
Doesn't need that. But Willis is more like, just running style wise, he's more built like Russell Wilson, where he's solid, can take a lick, could actually break a tackle.
Number 40 on Bruce Feldman's freaks list. Also, 13 on PFF Strap Board. Washington cornerback Trent McDuffie. Washington continues to turn these guys out. 5'11", 195, a 41.5-inch vertical. Also, I think had a 10.9 broad here, nearly an 11-foot broad. Explosive dude again. And I think everyone looks at the 40 when the combine turns on, but Trent, those numbers matter when you're looking to get explosive numbers. You're looking at the jumps. 41.5-inch vertical and nearly an 11-foot broad at 5'11", 195 are special numbers for McDuffie.
Yeah, when you're a shorter corner, listed at 5'11", your college corner not listed at 6 foot tall, means you're like 5'10", because you're anywhere in the neighborhood, you're going to get listed at 6 feet tall. But how are you going to make up for that when you're a shorter corner on the outside? What do you have that can keep you in phase or keep you at the catch point with a 6'4" with the Julio Jones, with a guy like that? Well, 41.5-inch vertical and 10.9 broad jumps that's gonna help you out a lot once you get to the next level. That's what you'd like to see from, like I said, a smaller corner.
He's another guy, too, that has been really good right out of the gate. He's a true junior this year. As a true freshman, was dominant. Played in all 13 games, earned an 83.7 PFF coverage grade, rarely allowed a lot of yards after the catch. A few missed tackles as well. Only 2 missed tackles in 2 years there at Washington. 994 snaps played, only 2 missed tackles for him. I do think that McDuffie, in what is obviously a loaded cornerback class, as a guy that maybe is getting overlooked by the Derek Stingleys. I mean, you've brought up, the guy at Alabama. You got Ahmad Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati. I do think that McDuffie, don't sleep on the kid. Washington and Jimmy Lake specifically continue to churn out talent at that position. 42, friend of the pod, Noah Daniels, a guy who's trying to get back healthy, trying to come back from injury, but when he's healthy is special. And for the reasons that he is an absolute freak athletically. 6 foot, 195, ran what? He was a big track guy, bench 405, hang clean 400, 427, 40-yard dash. Again, if this guy stays healthy and he can get out there, I honestly think he's going to be one of those guys that rises dramatically up boards. I know a lot of, Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl is already looking at him as a player that if he's healthy will be, brought down to Mobile. I honestly think health is the only thing kind of standing in the way of him really being a legit prospect in 2022. Yeah,
I don't think that. So the 400-pound hang clean, if you ever hang clean before, that number is out of this world for a 195-pound man. Tristan Wirfs, now obviously it's not necessarily as comparable. Tristan Wirfs did 450. That was his, record-breaking hang clean at Iowa that everyone, cakes their pants over, myself included. But Tristan Wirfs is 320 pounds. That is, less than 1.5 times body weight. That is twice Noah Daniels' body weight that he's hang cleaning. That is an insane number. The dude is very explosive. Like I said, 427. He has the speed. The athleticism is all there. Health. That's it. Dude's just got to play some football. Played fewer than 400 snaps in his career.
Man, I am really hoping he can get healthy because he has got some special talent, some special tools. All right, college football season is just around the corner. To celebrate, DraftKings Sportsbook, new sponsor of the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast and America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new players in the center of the action with $200 in free bets instantly if you bet $1 or more on any college football game. DraftKings Sportsbook is safe, secure, and reliable, located right here in the United States, so it's easy to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code PFF to receive $200 in free bets when you place $1 bet on any college football game. That's promo code PFF to get your free $200 in free bets instantly for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. We're on to the bottom few here. Treylon Burks. The number that stood out for me, so he's number 53 on the Feldman list. 26th ranked player on PFF's draft board, the wide receiver out of Arkansas. Nearly 11-inch hands. Those are some mitts. And for a guy that's going to be a big contested catch type, Treylon Burks, that's a big number that stands out in addition to obviously some of the other numbers that Feldman has listed here.
Yeah, and as much as I don't think hand size is an end-all be-all, it helps. In terms of like how well you are, it helps a lot in terms of hauling in football passes. Me and my brother are both 6 foot tall. We're about the same build. I have 9.25 inch hands. He has 10.25 inch hands. I have no fucking clue how. For make any jokes you want. I've heard them all before. But he had a lot better hands than I did growing up. It just helps a lot when you can hit, when you've got an extra 1.5 inches. And Treylon Burks, 10.75 inches, bigger than anyone at the 2020 NFL Combine, a new wide receiver. That's going to help a lot. And now he has 9 drops on 87 catchable in his career, but he's been very good in contested situations, 8 of 12 last year. That's just going to help a lot, and especially when you are, the rest of his physical profile is pretty insane too. That's why he's top 5. That's why he's top 5 in PFF.
Also some good perspective on that Noah Daniels number. He's power cleaning 320. Noah Daniels is hang cleaning 400 at like 30 pounds less.
Yeah.
Like Noah Daniels, again, that is an explosive dude. Yeah. Burks, man.
And 320 is a good
days.
number. Yeah.
Let's jump to Ikem Ekwonu. This number was a little ridiculous. This 40 number that he had listed here, I'm scrolling down. He had at 6'4", 327 pounds. I think he ran a 4.92 40-yard dash. Or no. That's the comparison to Garrett Bradbury. But they're saying he can get in that range. That's how
they said he'll run faster. The strength coach said.
That's
Garrett Bradbury.
And he's the explosive guy that we've talked about, the NC State offensive lineman, the guy who ranked first in positively graded run blocks this past year among any returning offensive lineman in the Power 5. He has here, Bruce Feldman led the team with 50 pancake blocks, 22 knockdowns. I think that's something that the team itself charts, but still, he was out there bullying kids. And I know Dave Dorn, the head coach who's been on this podcast, the NC State head coach, that's the guy he talked about the most. He's the guy that, people are watching NC State football for Ike Ekwonu.
Yeah, there are some explosive rising junior offensive linemen. Ekwonu, obviously Evan Neal, who's number 1 on the list from Alabama. Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. This is a very freaky offensive line class, like I said, of rising juniors here. But I don't think it's another one it's not a surprise. The fact that he led all guards last year, big time blocks, as a true sophomore, again, it shouldn't happen. It happens when you are that big of a freak. And if he does go sub 4.92 at 327 pounds, he's probably going to be a first-round pick. I mean, he's 25th on the PFF draft board right now. Still needs to get better in pass pro, but that's you don't see that. That does not happen a lot. And those guys that do that, they go high in the draft. Yeah,
just a 55.3 pass blocking grade this past year, but where he really shows up, 91.2 run blocking grade in 2020 and an 85.0 run blocking grade in 2019. Ike Ekwonu is as advertised as a run blocker. 2 more guys here, and then we'll jump to the interviews with Colorado head coach Karl Dorrell, Texas's TVONDRE Sweat, and Kentucky running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. But Drake London, guy that we've talked about on this podcast quite a bit. Clay Helton called him the next coming of Mike Evans, the next big thing in college football. 6'5", 210, 38-inch vert. A guy that also averaged 29 points and 12 rebounds in high school. I think he also wanted to play.
He played at USC.
Yeah, he played at the USC basketball team as well.
As a freshman, yeah.
Drake London. You said big slot in the NFL. He's a big slot for USC. Helton said he's going to play on the outside and the inside this year, but you kind of project him as that big slot. Any surprises here with London being here at 60 on the Bruce Feldman freaks list?
No, because he's sudden, but he's just not fast. Like you see he looks like a basketball player. Like you see that short area quicks, that change of direction ability. The leaping ability was obvious. I mean, if you watch his dunk contest back in high school, which I would recommend, they're fun. #fun to watch. The 30-inch vertical is not a surprise for a dude like that. But I think he kind of is a guy that is who he is. I'm not sure his tape this upcoming season is going to, unless he really does get faster, which, I mean, we've seen it happen to guys before, but you're just going to have to accept that he might not be a vertical threat, but where he does win, catch point, ball skills after the catch, is about as good as it gets in the country. I mean, he is a monster after the catch. So I don't want to say a very easy evaluation. I don't think anyone's ever an easy evaluation, but a very distinct strength and weaknesses are ready for him.
Last one here, Jaquan Brisker, soon to be friend of the pod. We're working to get on the show here. Hardest hitting safety in college football. 6'1", 203, 407 short shuttle. According to Bruce Feldman's freaks list, he's here at 76. Also had a 35-inch vert, benching 360, cleaning 315. Here we go. Another one of these safeties that where I'm so happy we're talking about a good safety class. Yep. We've been waiting. And Brisker, another one of those guys. He is PFF's 40th ranked player on the preseason draft board.
Yeah, and it's like, how are you the best tackling safety in the country? So Jaquan Brisker, the best tackling safety in the country, missed only 2 tackles all last season. Well, when you have a 4.07 short shuttle, that means you can mirror on a dime.
Hard to lose tackles.
Exactly. It's just those are the guys that the ability to change directions quickly while also being a physical presence, while also having those strength numbers, that's how you are, like I said, the best tackling safety in the country. So excited to see what he does kind of in his second year as a starter, more from a coverage perspective, because we're saying box safety right now, maybe dime linebacker, that's the coverage on the back end, still a question mark. So that's a TBD, but a guy who's very good at what he does, which is, like I said, playing the run, being physical, and even in coverage underneath, I feel like his instincts and whatnot are still good.
I'm excited for Brisker. I have one more nugget for you before we get to the interviews here. Tresh sent me this, PFF_Anthony. It was Bruce Arians talking about Joe Tryon, the Washington edge, the rookie they drafted in the first round, guy who did not play last year, completely transformed his body. We've already talked about that a ton on this podcast. Arians said, someone asked him about Joe Tryon's repertoire of pass rush moves. He said, you should probably ask Tristan Wirfs and Donovan Smith, because he's kicking their ass pretty good sometimes. I don't think he needs any more moves, that's for sure. Maybe a little more strength, but he's got plenty of that too. Already praising up Tryon for the move. I didn't think his moves list was going to be a thing that's jumping out in preseason or training camp or whatever it is. I'm kind of impressed by that. He's wearing the number 9. I saw an image of him with the visor on. I'm getting a little interested. Joe Tryon, man, I'm excited. How close? We're too close to football, man. We are so. I'm freaking stoked for this preseason too. We're going to get to see Joe Tryon likely suit up with Bruce Arians and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's going to do it for this portion of the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast. Now, interviews with Colorado head coach Karl Dorrell, Texas defensive tackle TVONDRE Sweat, and Kentucky running back Chris Rodriguez Jr.
Definitely we feel like we have a better team this year, and we had a good for the process we went through last year. This time there was so much uncertainty about the season. Matter of fact, I think we felt as soon as August hit, there was a chance that the season was not going to happen, and then I think shortly within the next week or so, at this time a year ago, they told us there was no season, and it was unfortunate, but I think our players rebounded from it when we started to have a semblance of a season that started in November. And so the team came back together and did some really positive things, had a good season, won 4 out of 6 games. So I think we made a lot of progress from last year to this year. And, since we've had a normal off season, meaning that, after the bowl game against Texas, which we lost, obviously we were disappointed by that, but the best thing about it was that we came back in January knowing that we're going to have a normal, off-season training program. And so we were able to do that. We hired a new strength coach in Shannon Turley, who's done a phenomenal job with our guys. So that started in February. So we had a couple months of really good training. We had a very productive spring. You mentioned Chris Wilson. He's now our new defensive coordinator. He was our D-line coach last year. And so what we wanted to do defensively, and the reason why we made some changes is that we wanted to simplify our system. And I felt that he was the right man to kind of lead in that process. So, we got a chance actually in spring ball to kind of put our new system of defense in place, and our players really gravitated well to it. I thought they made some huge strides in the process of doing that. And so we came out of spring feeling like our defensive system is going to be very much a very player-friendly type of system where they wouldn't have to have so many checks and adjustments that they need to make, and can naturally kind of, relate to the offensive sets and formations within the certain calls that we had. And I think our defensive players really gravitated with that thought and done a nice job with it. So, we just came out of the summer's training, and, the summer training went fantastic. A lot of guys made a lot of personal growth, and both physically and from a knowledge standpoint. So, they did some player-led practices on their own and did some really good things that I feel like there's a level of confidence that is completely different in terms of the aura of this team. They look like they're ready to go. So, we're just where we are right now. You mentioned, the NIL information that was passed in the summer. Like all of us, it's all kind of new, and I know there's opportunities for a lot of student athletes to gain some financial, support in a lot of different ways. And so we're still navigating through that in terms of what they can do and what they could do. And that's going actually pretty well as well. But I think the story on that, though, Austin, is the fact that, for players, particularly for us being a new program and really not people knowing too much about I would say the entire program, we need to put a great step forward for a lot of those things in terms of the financial support that they can earn. We have to put a great product on the field. And so it starts with playing great football and getting fan support and getting people that, want to get to know these student athletes at a little more intimate level for them to really, I would say, capitalize on their performance, which I think is kind of the nuts and bolts for getting some inducements along the way. So, but it's going along really well. It really is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the more you have, fan support and fan engagement around the team is obviously going to drive those NIL opportunities for the players at Colorado. I'd love to shift a little focus. I'm glad you brought up the defense, but offensively, I think there's a ton of talent in the quarterback room there at Colorado. Brendan Lewis, JT Stroud. I'd love to hear, you speak to the talent you have in that room and just the skill set each of those guys have.
Yeah, those guys have really come, I would say, full circle from where they were a year ago. And Brendan Lewis was our true freshman. He came in mid-year a year ago in 2020, and he missed the spring practice because we didn't have a spring, and we didn't have much summer, which he wasn't able to really digest a lot of the information. Given a new offense and a new coach and all that stuff. So he really started his learning process really when we started training camp last year in October. So, our ramp up was later than most. Last year, if you guys remember, we didn't start our 6-game season until November 5th last year. So his first really instance in our offense was really in October, which he came a long way, but he just wasn't quite ready to play at the early part of that season. So, you fast forward through the season and, we're at the bowl site and then, Sam's playing and he's struggling a little bit. And we felt like we needed somebody to kind of give us a change of pace. So we put Brendan in there. And really that was his first time playing collegiate football, was at the end of the year. And I say he passed in flying colors, given that to be his first, exposure, playing live, games that count, games that matter football. And, he showed a lot of poise, confidence. He made great plays with his legs, outside of the pocket. And I think he had a running touchdown, tight there in the goal line area. And he made some plays with his arm. He's made a few throws, and, Dimitri Stanley was a big target for him. And, he had a good game at that point in time against Texas. So I would say, from how he played in that game really gave him a big boost of confidence that he carried through this year. So, he's one of those guys that I think people need to be on the watch for, because he's a completely different player. He has a good deal of run skill, within that position. He has a great arm. He has a great presence. I think the team really rallies around him. He has good leadership qualities. So he is definitely a factor, for our success going forward. Now we, at the end of the season, after, we ended up fortunately to get a good transfer quarterback from Tennessee and JT Stroud. And he has done a phenomenal job as well, in the short period of time since he's been here with digesting our offense, and then performing that in the spring. And he did some really good things in the spring. And so we feel like at that position, even though we lost Sam Neuer, we feel like it's a very talented position. Now JT's more of a pro style type kid. He's still very athletic. He still run the ball and do some of the run game that we allow our quarterbacks to do. But he's one of those guys that has a great feel in the pocket, and he does a great job, with reading defenses and going through progressions. And he has a terrific arm. And so he's very confident that he can be a big factor for us too. So, we're going to, let those two kind of duke it out a little bit, for training camp. And we think that there's a really good chance that both these guys will be big factors for us in our success this season.
Gotcha. And I bet both of them, Lewis and Stroud, are already huge fans of Laviska Shenault's younger brother, Levante Shenault, a guy that maybe doesn't have the same absurd dynamism as his older brother, but still a guy that can make moves after the catch and those things. What are your expectations, or I guess your expectations for usage and his role in this offense? And then also just what kind of ceiling does this kid have?
He's a dynamic player. There's no question. He's from a good bloodline, like you mentioned, with his older brother. That's a really good player, and he's playing well at Jacksonville right now. And, I think Levante he's taller, he's a leaner player. His brother was a little more compact and, built like kind of in between a tight end and a receiver, where I think Levante looks like a pure, receiver type, but has a tremendous skill. He does have really good skill. He's a young player. That's what people, really don't realize. He's still a young freshman that's really doing some really positive things. But he has great route running ability. He has great ball skills. He has great speed. He has all the facets you want at the position, and we're hoping that this is going to be a good breakout year for him to kind of stand on his own, so to speak, and not live behind the shadows of, what his brother's accomplishments were. But he still has some work to continue to develop, like most young players. But that whole receiver group is a young group. The oldest player, that played a lot from last year is Dimitri Stanley, and he'll be a junior this year. So overall, it's a pretty young group. So for him he should be a big factor in what we do offensively. He's had a great summer. So, we're hoping to take those next couple steps of improvement and growth from him to really start to see that talent on the field.
I'm glad you bring up development and how these players improve, because you've been, a wide receivers coach for a long time, also a former wide receiver at UCLA. I'd be interested to hear, I talked to PJ Fleck about this, also a longtime wide receivers coach and former wide receiver, about what traits at the receiver position are the most coachable, or I guess another way to phrase it would be, not necessarily traits, but what attributes, what can you do the most to improve your skill set as a receiver? And then what are those other traits that that are kind of God-given or kind of naturally given to those receivers? What is coachable and what can be improved, and how do you get there? And also, what is kind of that natural talent you seek for, that floor talent that you seek for at the receiver position?
Well, that's what I do like about receivers, and in my experience when I've been coaching receivers, is I like guys with all different types of talent. I like guys that are big. I like guys that are, my height, which is roughly around 6 foot. There's a couple guys that are shorter than me. They all have different attributes, and I believe your skill group should have that. You don't want to have a group of just all tall receivers with the same type of athletic skill. I like guys that have a little more dynamics in certain areas of what they do. I would say with Levante, he's a really good basketball player. So he has a really good ability after the catch of making people miss and getting extra yards, just because he has such short, quick feet and can really put his foot in the ground and change direction. So those are really strong attributes for him. Dimitri Stanley, who's kind of our veteran receiver, he's on the shorter side. He's a guy that's played in the slot a lot, but we're planning on playing him both outside and inside this year because he has great feet, great route running ability, good ball skills. So, he's a guy that we'd love to be able to move around and really utilize his skill set. So, all those things, the qualities that I like the most of a receiver is obviously catching the ball, one. The ball's thrown to you, hopefully catching it and gaining yards, but what they do after the catch. And that's really my NFL experience, is that I wanted guys that were dynamic after the play was transacted. I made the catch. Okay, what's going to happen now is, can he get us, 10, 15 more yards, when there's, in a normal situation, that most receivers would only get 4 or 5 yards after a catch. I want to see if guys can really break tackles and have great play strength and move the football even further beyond what the expectation is, in a situation like that. So we do feel we have some dynamic players. A lot of it, though, like I told you, is pretty young. Mm-hmm. But it's something that I know they'll build confidence as we move ourselves through this fall camp.
Only a couple more questions for you, Coach. I really appreciate the time. And I want to focus a little bit on the defensive side of the ball as well. I know Chris Wilson, coming in as the defensive coordinator, saw significant improvement that you spoke to earlier in the interview from this unit this past year. 2 defensive standouts that I know PFF is really high on, Mekhi Blackmon and Nate Landman. I know you mentioned that Landman is close to 100% at Pac-12 Media Days. I guess, what are your expectations for Blackmon and Landman, and do you see him being kind of the top dogs on that defensive unit?
They're definitely, certainly two of the top guys that are in that core of our defense. Nate's played a lot of football, has had a lot of production, is definitely one of the better linebackers in our conference, or let alone in the nation. So, he's coming off of surgery, and he looks great. He's in great shape. He's close to 100%. We want to do the right thing with him as he goes into camp. of just making sure we're continuing that progress through camp so that he's completely 100% at the start of the season. But he's one of those guys. He doesn't need a tremendous amount of reps because he's a veteran player and really has a great football IQ about what his role is on our defense. Mekhi is I would say he had a really good season towards the end of the season. He did some really positive things with coverage, making plays up and getting pass breakups, and he's had a couple opportunities to get his hands on the ball, and so I think he's really starting to gel and get to a level of performance that we all thought he could attain. He did that towards the end of the year, and we're hoping that he continues to bridge that forward and being a really good player for us on the edge, at the corner position. I would also say that Carson Wells, he's a name that, he's had a lot of production last year. In the 6 games that he played, he had, he almost led our conference in tackles for losses. He had sacks, he had a couple interceptions, he had some fumble recoveries. He's been a guy that's been kind of a knack of just being around the football and making positive plays. So, Carson Wells is a guy that we think is also a big part of that. And, Terrence Lang, up front is one of our veteran defensive linemen.
He was next on my list.
Yeah, he's he had off-season surgery too, and he's almost at that 100% part of his career, part of where he is in terms of his physical condition. But he's a veteran player too. He's one of those guys that shouldn't need many reps, but he just needs to get himself in physical shape to be able to play at a level that we expect him to. But we feel that we have a good core on the defensive side that are really going to give us a chance to be a very impactful defense.
100%. I think you're also really fortunate to have a lot of these guys coming back. Mekhi, Nate, Wells, Lang. I think the ceiling for this team, especially after so much improvement in 2020, is really special. I think the last name I'll bring up before I let you go, the transfer, Robert Barnes, coming over from Oklahoma. What have you seen from him, and what are your early impressions of Barnes?
The biggest thing that I say what Robert has done in such a really short period of time, because he came in this spring, in the spring semester, is that he's shown great leadership qualities right from the start as soon as he got in our program. He was a great guy in terms of leading in the offseason, in terms of our training. He leads all of our player-led practices and making sure that everybody's there and doing their roles and working hard and stuff like that. So from a leadership standpoint, he's done a tremendous job. And then he's really cemented himself in our defense too. We needed some more experience at linebacker. We lost 2 last year, given off of last year's season. And he's able to come in and really, I think, improve us and make us even better at that position than where we were a year ago last year. So with having him on the field, and Nate Lamont and Carson Wells, and not even going to fail to mention Jack Lamb, who was another transfer we had from Notre Dame at an outside linebacker position. We feel that whole front 7 is a completely different front 7 than what we had a year ago, in a good way.
Fantastic stuff, Coach. I really appreciate the time, and I wish you the best of luck moving forward.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Austin. Thanks for having me on.
Now joining the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is current Texas defensive tackle TVONDRE Sweat. TVONDRE, I've been looking forward to this interview all day. I'm excited to have you on, my friend.
Yes, sir. Me too. I'm excited.
Let's start with kind of not the elephant in the room, but a lot of people are focusing on you getting healthy. You had off-season shoulder surgery this past off-season. What's the latest from the doctors? How's that coming along? I know you weren't able to participate in spring, but what about summer? How close are you to being 100%?
I'm 100% now.
Oh, gotcha. Fantastic, man.
I'm right. I'm ready to rock and roll.
When does training camp start for you? You guys already doing padded practices, or where are you guys at?
No, we start August 6th, I believe.
Oh, a couple days.
Yeah.
Nice, man. So you'll be 100% at those practices?
Oh, yeah, I'm 100% ready to go.
Hell yeah, man. That's going to be freaking awesome. I know a lot of Texas fans looking forward to hearing that. And then, so what weight did you play at this past season? And obviously with the shoulder surgery, did it have any effect on your weight now? And what are you hoping to play at this upcoming year? Well,
this past season, I played at 340. Mm-hmm. This coming up season, like this summer, I've been 335, 334, 330, around there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to play at least under 334.
Oh, wow. Nice. That's awesome, man. That's exactly, I mean, especially with how often you're playing on the nose. And I think that gets my next question, pass rushing from the nose and playing so much nose, where you look at the NFL, not a lot of true nose tackles anymore. Vince Wilforks aren't walking through that door. Not a lot of people playing head up over the center as often as you are. I guess I'd be interested to hear what you feel like your pass rush plan is pre-snap. What goes through your head specifically on passing downs to get through centers and move forward like that? Because I know pre-snap pass rush plan is so much of pass rushing success. So what's going through your head pre-snap?
Well, I ain't gonna tell everybody, my little secret or whatever, but I'm just sticking to normal,
Yeah.
Just, get off the ball, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm just say pass rush.
Gotcha. Don't give away the secret sauce. Do you in the offseason, if you had any opportunities to go back and watch film on yourself, and if and when you have, what have you been picking up on, or if not, have you watched any film on, say, some NFL guys to pick up some moves from them?
Yeah, I watched a little film on myself, like just to see like where I was, and what I need to get better at this year. And mainly, like, my biggest thing is getting my weight down. So. Yeah. I feel pretty good right now since my weight's been down. So that's one of my biggest keys coming in this season.
So what have you been doing differently, I guess, this offseason, and what do you plan to do during the season differently to keep that weight down and kind of prioritize it? Are you bringing in a nutritionist? Is it a different workout regime? Yeah.
Shout out to my guy, Craig. Man.
Nice. What exactly is he feeding you?
I'm eating good. That's all I can say. It's good.
So I remember talking to Joe Tryon, the former Washington Edge, and he's the guy that completely transformed his body in the last year. And he said the hardest thing to give up is fast food because it's just so easy and so quick. Is that similar for you? And I guess what's your favorite fast foods?
I probably have to go with like Whataburger.
Yeah, and that's Whataburger's king in Texas. Yeah. All right, back to football here. Enough about the food talk here. Where do you feel like your biggest strength is as a defensive lineman? What, I guess, do you feel separates you from other defensive tackles in college football?
Honestly, I'll probably have to say, just how big and athletic I am. I feel like that's a big key of my game, of me being so athletic, as how big I am. Like, yeah, you won't see as like big people like me as athletic.
That moves like you. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And what weight were you when you first got to Texas?
When I first got to Texas, I was 320.
Oh, okay. Damn, at 18 years old, dude, you're cruising, dude. You're a big boy, man. You're out here grinding. The next question I have for you is, I guess, what are you looking forward to improve on the most? Maybe not weight specifically, but your skills. What are you hoping to improve from a skill set standpoint this upcoming year?
Honestly, just getting faster, being more like, basically just getting better at like loving the game. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like, I had a big problem when like all that COVID stuff happened.
Yeah.
A little bit of my love had went away. Like, now I'm just focusing on getting back to where I was and like loving the game as more, and like having more respect for the game. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, no, totally. I think COVID affected, I think, a lot of people's love for the game. I don't think you're alone there. Some other guys I want to bring up on that Texas defense, we're really excited about it. Obviously, DeMarvion Overshone, and you got Keandre Coburn. And speak to the relationship you have with both those guys. And I guess, do you see those two being the leaders of the defense with yourself?
Yes, sir. Most definitely. Them was like, we like this. We real close. I'm real close with them too. Like, real close.
That's fantastic.
Them the two guys I invite to my wedding.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, one more question for you, man, and I'll let you go. I really appreciate the time. What is your biggest goal, either as a team or yourself, this upcoming season, and how do you get there? Winning the Big 12, winning the Natty, just going all the way. Hell yeah. That's my biggest goal. I like me just doing whatever I can to help the team be successful of winning. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. That's got to be everyone's goal, man. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate the time, and best of luck this upcoming season. Yes, sir. Now joining the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is current Kentucky running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. I know people call you C-Rod. Is C-Rod the nickname I go with here, or how should I approach this? Yes, sir. C-Rod, man. That's what I like. Gotcha. We were talking a little bit before we got started about the offseason, how that's gone. And you said you're weighing in around what, 5'11", 227 right now? But what's the goal weight for this year? And 227. And what's the goal weight for this year? And what weight did you play out last year?
Last year I played at 225, but right now my goal is to get down to 220. When I was at 220, I think my freshman year is where I felt the fastest and I felt like really good, like even like working out and stuff. Like 220 was just the best I've ever felt.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, this past season was the best we've ever seen. A 92.4 PFF grade this past year, 46 broken tackles, people just bouncing off of you. And I think you're one of the more underrated players or prospects in the SEC. And I think at the running back position specifically, just because the SEC churns out so much talent at the running back position. In terms of goals for this year, are you thinking about, hey, I want to be the best running back in the SEC, let alone best running back in the country? I guess I'd be interested to hear if that's part of your goals or what your goals are for 2021.
So my goals this year is to, honestly, I don't feed into all the hype about being like the best player or whatever. My goal is to be the best I can be to help my team win, whether that's catching more balls out of the backfield, whether it's making like long runs or something. But yeah, I don't really feed into all the other stuff that, like, you know, they say like I made like third. I think it was like third team all SEC or something like that. I don't really listen to it. I have my best friend reads over. He tells me, and I'm like, well, that's cool. I'm still gonna do what I got to do.
I think that's a good way to look at it, man. I honestly, I'd love to talk a little bit more about Kentucky football, and I really over the past 3 or 4 years, how much that culture has changed, and a lot of it has been just the sheer talent that has been there. We had Josh Allen on the PFF Podcast Network, talked to him a ton. Mike Edwards, Benny Snell, and then you even look, Logan Stenberg, Lynn Bowden. Like, you guys continue. Kelvin Joseph, Jamin Davis. This team is churning out talent at a rate we really haven't seen in a long time at Kentucky. Obviously a lot of that's recruiting and bringing the right guys here, but how much do you feel the culture has changed at Kentucky since you got there in 2018?
Man, it has changed a lot. Like, when I first got here, I mean, you could tell like everybody was kind of clued in. But over the past few years, it's like everybody like has started to come together. Like, at first it was like they had a lot of people that are doing it, but then they had a few people that we call vampires, whatever. They just suck the blood out of the team. Like, they don't really want to practice. They don't care to be there. Yeah. Even if they're not playing like scout team guys, they're like, man, I don't like coming to practice. Like, we don't do nothing. Now it's like everybody wants to be there. Everybody wants to help make the team better because everybody's trying to get to Atlanta. So that's one of the main things I could really say about the culture around the Kentucky facility.
Yeah, I mean, it's shown up in the success of the program and really where the program is heading. I'm interested to hear what your relationship was or even is with Benny Snell. I know Benny Snell kind of handed the keys to you in 2020. And obviously you're now the feature back there at Kentucky. Do you still talk to Benny, and how much did you learn from him in the time you spent with him?
Yeah, man, Benny's my dog, man. I don't know if y'all know, but around Kentucky, they were calling me Mini Benny or whatever. So, I mean, at first, like, I talked to him about it or whatever, and a couple other people. The Mini Benny was cool, and then he was like, it's time, like, make your own name or whatever. But, yeah, me and Benny, man, we talk all the time. I just texted him, I think a couple of days ago, talk about some NIL stuff or whatever. And, as far as, like, what I learned from him, man, if you've seen that dude practice, like, he took every rep like it was like game reps. Like, he was serious every rep. And if he lost a rep, like when we do one-on-ones, if he lost a rep, he's calling you out. He's like, all right, let's go again. Let's do it again. Like, he came to compete every day. And that's something I really took from him because when I was in high school, like, I was like that guy. I was like, man, I don't care. Like, I lose a rep, whatever. I don't want to practice no more. And then he really showed me, like, yo, like, if you want to do this, man, you got to really clue in to what you want to do. So, yeah.
That's wild, because I think that's exactly the mentality you want to have on the football field. But off the field, I remember talking to him at the combine. The dude's all smiles, man. You can't find a bigger grin than Benny's grin. That's crazy that he's able to have that kind of two sides to him. Off the field, obviously a big vocal leader, a big smiles guy. But yeah, another guy I want to talk about is Lynn Bowden Jr., who I know was a big vocal leader during that 2020 campaign, and someone that a lot of people flocked to there at Kentucky. What was your relationship like with him? And I think is there anything you took away from that experience?
Yeah, so Lynn, that's also my guy. Whenever he comes in town, he hits me up or whatever. We talk. We don't talk too much anymore. We used to talk a lot, but yeah, that 2020 season, we had some problems or whatever, so we had to move Lynn to quarterback or whatever. Lynn, he was a guy like, I don't know if y'all remember that year either, but that's the year that I wasn't really getting a lot of reps, and I was like out of it. I didn't want to I wanted to play, but it's like, man, y'all only gonna put me in at the end of the game. Like, I don't really like that or whatever. So Lynn was like, me and Lynn had a talk. I think it was after the Mississippi State game, maybe. It was after one of those games or whatever. And he was like, yo, just keep your head on, man. Keep working, keep pushing. And obviously I got started playing a lot more or whatever. And yeah.
Gotcha. I want to shift a little bit back over to you, and specifically this past season. I already spoke to a couple of the advanced metrics, a 91.6 PFF rusher grade, 46 missed tackles, also a ton of yards after contact. Here at PFF, we talk a ton about how much the running back position has evolved, both at the collegiate level and the NFL level. And so much of what you need to do and what running backs need to do now is obviously the passing game, being that versatile piece, being able to pass protect and run as a pass catcher, but also you have to earn yards. You have to create yards after contact and forcing missed tackles. Is that something that you prioritize consistently in your preparation? Or I guess, where do you view like the most important skill set for the running back position is?
Yeah, so what I think it is obviously is your yak yards, just yards out of contact. But from being in college going to NFL, I feel like it's important to also catch out of the backfield. Like, that's one of the main things that I'm working on this season. And I won't say too much, but y'all see or whatever. But yeah, I feel like yak yards, and I work on that all the time. Like, even if it's like I'm running and somebody will bump into me, like, it's just like little drills that we do. But I've been like that since high school. Like, me and my coach would always he was like, yeah, you need to get your yak yards up or whatever. I'm like, all right, coach. So we would just do like little drills day after day, and like practice. We would just do all that different types of stuff or whatever.
Yeah. And I think the pass catch, I talked to a lot of running backs kind of in the pre-draft process even. I remember talking to Miles Sanders coming out of Penn State. He backed up Saquon Barkley, had that 1 year, and the biggest thing, he's like, I gotta be a factor on passing downs. I gotta pass protect and be a pass catcher. So Travis Etienne, Clemson, I was talking to Amari Rogers, the Clemson wide receiver. He said Travis Etienne had the worst hands on the football team in freshman year, and then eventually obviously developed as a pass catcher and so forth. It's something that I think every running back kind of picks up as they progress, because in high school, they just get you the football and you probably light it up, especially a talent like yourself. Looking ahead to this upcoming season for Kentucky, I'd be interested to hear what you feel are the team's expectations this year. Obviously you got Wan'Dale Robinson, top pass catcher, coming back this year. Will Levis. I'm interested to hear with Kentucky this upcoming season, what are your guys' expectations? I know you said get to Atlanta. I guess if that is your expectation, how do you guys get there as a team?
Yeah, so we've had a talk actually with the whole team, and what we do is we're taking every game week by week. We're not looking obviously our goal is to get to Atlanta, but that's like everybody's goal. That's the main goal. But one of our top goals is to take it game by game, down by down, and just, winning every quarter. And that's how we're going to start, and that's how we're going to finish. And offensively, we obviously we had like a jug challenge or whatever. And our coach is like, okay, well, y'all go out there and y'all catch 50,000. Y'all want to, in the last few years, we haven't really caught a lot of passes or whatever. So coach was like, if y'all want to be great, y'all go out there, and the whole skill unit, the whole skill set, like the whole offense, he was like, yeah, everybody go out there and catch 50,000 balls. So we've been working towards that. We'll figure out what we're at tomorrow or the day after before camp starts. So.
Hell yeah, man. One more question for you. I really appreciate the time. We are big fans of your game as a tackle breaker and yards after contact. I think something that we wrote in the draft guide is you're an absolute bowling ball, butcher knives. Do you feel that's your biggest skill set or biggest strength compared to other running backs? And if not, what do you feel separates you from other running backs in the country?
I don't really know about the whole bowling ball and all that. That's what they say, or anvil on wheels, is if you probably heard that.
I like that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't even know what an anvil was until not too long ago or whatever. I had to look it up after they said it or whatever.
Oh man.
But yeah, I feel like what separates me from everybody else is it's not gonna be just one dude that hits me and he's not gonna take me down. And if it does happen, it's not gonna happen often. every time somebody hits me, I'm trying to run through them, and I'm going straight to the goal line. That's my goal every time I get the ball.
That's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate the time, and I wish you the best of luck this upcoming season and beyond that.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Have to mention this. I'm wearing it. A new partner on the 2-4 Drafts podcast, Home Field Apparel. You probably already know about Home Field. They are absolutely monsters in the college football apparel space. Right here, LSU, hold that tiger. I got a bunch of other gear on the way as well, and you can too. Home Field Apparel is the premium collegiate clothing brand out of Indianapolis. Incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. Home Field is in the middle of Big News Saturday, Season 2, where they launch a new school collection every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern for 16 weeks straight. They just recently released Kentucky, Wisconsin, and Florida. But this Saturday, we've got the Georgia Bulldogs. I have the LSU shirt here. I got an Aztecs one. I got a Texas one on the way. I'm just going to keep getting college stuff. I'm not going to stop here, Mike. I'm not going to stop. Have to keep doing it. You can too. Use promo code PFF to get 15% off your first purchase at homefieldapparel.com. That is promo code PFF for 15% off your first purchase. Get ready for college football tailgate season. Boom. We are done. Interviews with Colorado's Karl Dorrell, TVONDRE Sweat, Chris Rodriguez Jr., all three of those guys. Fantastic additions to the show here. Until next time, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to 2-for-1 Drafts wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to continue to do 2 per week until August 23rd. Launching the rebrand and 3 episodes per week for the foreseeable future. Going to be a fantastic treat for the 2-for-1 Drafts listeners when we get back. This is Gayle, Mike Renner, producer Max Chadwick, producer Mike Quinn, 2-for-1 Drafts.